When Ranger Sarah Mitchell received the distress call about an injured police K9 in the remote wilderness of Montana's Glacier National Park, she expected a routine rescue mission. What she discovered when she found the German Shepherd lying motionless in a hidden ravine would shatter everything she thought she knew about loyalty, sacrifice, and the unbreakable bonds that define true heroism. The moment she saw what the dog was protecting beneath his body, her scream echoed through the mountains, marking the beginning of a story that would challenge everything she believed about courage and change her life forever. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The emergency radio crackled to life at 3:47 a.m. on a frigid October morning, cutting through the silence of the ranger station with an urgency that immediately pulled Sarah Mitchell from her restless sleep. 28 years old, and 3 years into her career as a wilderness ranger, Sarah had responded to countless calls involving lost hikers, injured climbers, and wildlife encounters. But something about this particular transmission made her stomach tighten with an inexplicable sense of foreboding. Ranger Station Alpha, this is Detective Ray Castellanos with the Kalispell Police Department. We have a code red situation involving our K9 unit. Officer Titan went missing during a manhunt. Operation in Sector 7 of the park, approximately 18 hours ago. Last known coordinates are being transmitted now. We need immediate assistance. Sarah's fingers moved swiftly across the communication console as she acknowledged the transmission, her mind already racing through the logistics of a search and rescue operation in one of the most treacherous sections of Glacier National Park. Sector 7 encompassed nearly 40 square miles of dense forest, steep ravines, and unpredictable terrain that had claimed the lives of experienced outdoorsmen who underestimated its dangers. The fact that a highly trained police dog had gone missing in this area during what was clearly a serious law enforcement operation suggested circumstances far more complex than a simple animal rescue. As she pulled on her standard-issue Ranger uniform and gathered emergency supplies, Sarah found herself thinking about the countless stories she had heard about police K9 units and the extraordinary bonds between these animals and their human partners. These dogs represented years of intensive training, thousands of dollars in investment, and most importantly, irreplaceable partnerships built on trust, communication, and mutual dependence. The disappearance of such an animal during an active operation would devastate not only the immediate law enforcement team, but potentially compromise ongoing investigations and public safety initiatives. The temperature outside registered -12 degrees Fahrenheit, with wind conditions that made the actual feel significantly colder. Snow had been falling intermittently for the past 3 days, creating a landscape that was both breathtakingly beautiful and potentially deadly for anyone unprepared for its challenges. Sarah's breath formed crystalline clouds as she loaded her emergency equipment into the Ranger vehicle, checking and double-checking supplies that might mean the difference between life and death in the wilderness conditions they were about to face. Her radio crackled again as she started the engine. Ranger Mitchell, this is Detective Castellanos. I wanted to provide additional context before you begin your search. Officer Titan is a 5-year-old German Shepherd with specialized training in narcotics detection and suspect apprehension. He was pursuing a suspect who fled into the park during a drug trafficking investigation when he became separated from his handler, Officer Maria Santos. Officer Santos sustained a minor injury during the pursuit and was unable to continue tracking. Titan has been missing for approximately 19 hours now. The additional information created a more complete picture of the situation, but it also raised troubling questions about what circumstances could have separated such a highly trained animal from his handler during an active pursuit. German Shepherds used in police work possessed intelligence, loyalty, and training that made them virtually inseparable from their human partners under normal circumstances. The fact that Titan had been missing for nearly 20 hours in sub-zero temperatures without any sign of his location or condition suggested either injury, entrapment, or circumstances that had overwhelmed even his extensive training and natural survival instincts. Sarah's vehicle navigated the winding mountain roads with practiced precision, her headlights cutting through the pre-dawn darkness as she approached the coordinates provided by the police department. The landscape became increasingly rugged as she gained elevation, with towering pine trees creating a canopy that blocked much of the moonlight and made navigation dependent entirely on artificial illumination and her intimate knowledge of the park's geography. After 45 minutes of careful driving, Sarah reached the trailhead that would provide access to the search area. She parked the vehicle and began the process of preparing for what could easily become a multi-hour trek through challenging terrain in dangerous weather conditions. Her emergency pack contained thermal blankets, first aid supplies, emergency food and water, communication equipment, and specialized rescue gear designed for animal emergencies. Additional equipment included ice axes, crampons, and rope systems that would allow her to navigate steep terrain or perform technical rescues if necessary. The silence of the pre-dawn wilderness felt almost oppressive as Sarah began her hike into Sector 7, broken only by the rhythmic crunch of snow beneath her boots and the occasional sound of wind moving through the tree canopy above. Her headlamp created a cone of visibility that extended perhaps 20 feet in any direction, making the forest feel both intimate and vast simultaneously. Every shadow could conceal a fallen tree, a hidden ravine, or potentially the missing K9 she was searching for. As she hiked deeper into the wilderness, Sarah found herself reflecting on the countless animals she had encountered during her years. As a ranger, from injured deer to lost domestic pets, she had seen the full spectrum of animal behavior under stress and had developed both the technical skills and emotional resilience necessary to handle complex rescue situations. However, something about this particular mission felt different, carrying a weight of significance that she could not quite articulate, but nonetheless felt deeply. The terrain became increasingly challenging as she approached the coordinates provided by the police department, requiring careful navigation around fallen trees, across frozen streams, and up steep inclines that tested both her physical conditioning and technical skills. The cold was becoming more noticeable despite her layers of protective clothing, and she found herself grateful for the physical exertion that helped maintain her core body temperature. After nearly 2 hours of hiking, Sarah's radio crackled with an update from Detective Castellanos. "Ranger Mitchell, we've been able to narrow the search area based on additional information from Officer Santos." She recalls that Titan was pursuing the suspect toward a series of ravines approximately half a mile southeast of your current position. The suspect was eventually apprehended this morning, but he claims he never saw the dog after the initial pursuit began. The updated information provided more specific direction for her search efforts, but it also raised additional concerns about what might have happened to Titan during those critical hours when he was separated from his handler. The ravine system mentioned by Detective Castellanos was known for its dangerous terrain, with steep drop-offs, unstable footing, and hidden obstacles that could easily trap or injure an animal, even one with the training and intelligence of a police K9. Sarah adjusted her course toward the southeast, using her GPS navigation system to guide her through the increasingly complex terrain. The landscape in this section of the park featured a series of interconnected ravines, carved by centuries of water erosion, creating a maze of steep-sided valleys that could easily disorient even experienced hikers. The recent snowfall had obscured many of the visual landmarks that would normally help with navigation, making her electronic navigation equipment essential for both finding her destination and ensuring her own safe return. As she approached the ravine system, Sarah began calling out for Titan, using the standard commands and whistle signals that police K9 units typically responded to. The sound of her voice echoed off the steep walls of the ravines, creating an eerie multiplication of her calls that seemed to emphasize the vastness and isolation of the search area. She paused frequently to listen for any response, but the only sounds were the wind through the trees and the occasional crack of settling snow or ice. The first ravine she encountered was relatively shallow and easy to navigate, with a clear view of the bottom and no obvious signs of the missing dog. However, as she continued her search pattern, the ravines became deeper and more complex, with twisted bottoms filled with fallen trees, snowdrifts, and rocky debris that could easily conceal an injured animal. The physical demands of the search were beginning to take their toll, and Sarah found herself working harder to maintain the systematic approach necessary for an effective rescue operation. It was in the fourth ravine that Sarah first noticed something unusual. As she approached the edge and began her visual scan of the bottom, her headlamp illuminated what appeared to be disturbed snow in a pattern that suggested recent activity. The disturbance was too regular to be natural and too large to be created by small wildlife, suggesting the possibility of a larger animal or even human activity in the area. Sarah carefully made her way down into the ravine, using her ice axe for stability and taking care to test each foothold before committing her full weight. The descent required several minutes of careful movement, and by the time she reached the bottom, she was breathing heavily from both the physical exertion and the growing anticipation of what she might find. The disturbed snow area was larger than it had appeared from above, covering an irregular patch approximately 10 feet in diameter. As Sarah approached, she could see that the disturbance was not random, but appeared to follow a pattern consistent with an animal moving in circles or attempting to dig through the snow. Her pulse quickened as she realized she might be close to finding Titan, but the complete silence of the area also suggested that whatever had created the disturbance was no longer active. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Sarah began a careful examination of the area, looking for any signs that might indicate Titan's presence or condition. Her systematic search revealed what appeared to be paw prints in the snow, confirming that a large dog had indeed been in the area. However, the prints were partially obscured by wind and additional snowfall, making it difficult to determine how recent they might be or which direction the animal had traveled. As she continued her investigation, Sarah noticed what appeared to be a slight depression in the snow near the center of the disturbed area. The depression was roughly circular and appeared to be deeper than the surrounding snow, suggesting that something had been lying in that spot for an extended period. Her training and experience told her this could be a bed site, where an injured or exhausted animal had sought shelter, but the absence of the animal itself raised questions about its current location and condition. Sarah's search of the immediate area revealed no additional signs of Titan's presence, but as she prepared to expand her search pattern to adjacent areas, a sound caught her attention that made her freeze in place. It was faint and distant, but unmistakably the sound of a dog in distress. The sound seemed to be coming from deeper within the ravine system, beyond her current visual range, but close enough to be clearly audible in the still morning air. Moving quickly but carefully, Sarah began following the sound deeper into the ravine, her heart rate increasing with both the physical exertion and the growing certainty that she was close to finding the missing K9. The ravine curved sharply to the left, and as she rounded the bend, her headlamp illuminated a sight that would be burned into her memory forever. Approximately 50 feet ahead, barely visible in the shadows cast by overhanging rock formations, lay the distinctive form of a large German shepherd. The dog was motionless, lying on his side in what appeared to be a small alcove formed by fallen rocks and accumulated snow. Even from a distance, Sarah could see that something was wrong with the scene, but it was not until she approached within 20 feet that the true nature of the situation became clear. Titan was not simply lying down or resting. He was positioned in a way that suggested he was protecting something beneath his body, his form curved around what appeared to be a smaller shape that was completely hidden from view. The dog's breathing was shallow and labored, and his eyes, though open, showed the glassy quality that suggested hypothermia or severe exhaustion. Despite his obvious distress, Titan's position remained protective, his body serving as a living shield for whatever lay beneath him. As Sarah approached more closely, speaking in low, soothing tones that she hoped would reassure the obviously distressed animal, she began to understand that she was witnessing something far more complex than a simple case of a lost police dog. Titan had not simply become lost or injured during his pursuit of a suspect. He'd found something in this remote ravine that had triggered his protective instincts so strongly that he had remained in position despite life-threatening conditions, using his own body heat and presence to shield whatever he was guarding from the deadly cold and predators that roamed these mountains. The realization that Titan was protecting something beneath his body sent a chill through Sarah that had nothing to do with the sub-zero temperatures. As a ranger, she had encountered many situations involving animals in distress, but the level of determination and sacrifice that Titan was demonstrating suggested that whatever he was protecting held significance beyond normal animal behavior. The fact that he had maintained his protective position for nearly 20 hours in conditions that could easily have killed him spoke to a level of commitment and loyalty that transcended basic survival instincts. Sarah's approach to the situation required extreme care, as she needed to assess both Titan's condition and the nature of what he was protecting without causing additional stress to an already critically compromised animal. Her training in wildlife rescue and animal behavior provided frameworks for approaching distressed animals, but the complexity of this situation, involving a highly trained police dog in extreme conditions, required adaptation of standard protocols. As she knelt in the snow approximately 10 feet from Titan's position, Sarah could see that the dog's condition was indeed critical. His breathing was rapid and shallow. His normally glossy coat was dull and covered with ice crystals, and his eyes showed the unfocused quality that indicated severe hypothermia. Despite these obvious signs of distress, Titan's protective position remained unchanged, his body curved around whatever lay beneath him in a posture that suggested unwavering determination to maintain his guard. The moment of truth arrived as Sarah began her careful approach to examine what Titan was protecting. She moved slowly and deliberately, speaking in calm, reassuring tones, while keeping her movements predictable and non-threatening. As she drew closer, she could see that Titan's body was indeed covering something smaller, but the exact nature of the protected object remained unclear in the limited visibility provided by her headlamp. It was when Sarah positioned herself at an angle that allowed her to see beneath Titan's protective form that the true shock of the situation became apparent. What she saw in that moment would forever change her understanding of loyalty, sacrifice, and the extraordinary lengths to which some beings will go to protect what they hold dear. The scream that escaped her lips echoed through the ravine, a sound of pure emotional shock that seemed to capture both the horror and the profound beauty of what she had discovered. Beneath Titan's protective body, barely visible, but unmistakably present, was the small, still form of what appeared to be a human child. The child beneath Titan's protective body could not have been more than 7 or 8 years old, with dark hair matted against a pale face that showed the unmistakable signs of prolonged exposure to extreme cold. The small form was completely motionless, wrapped in what appeared to be an adult's oversized jacket that had provided some protection, but was clearly insufficient against the brutal mountain conditions. Sarah's medical training immediately kicked in as she assessed the situation, recognizing that she was now dealing with not one, but 2 critical cases requiring immediate intervention. Sarah Mitchell had not entered the Ranger Service by accident or casual interest. Born and raised in the small town of Whitefish, Montana, she had grown up surrounded by the wilderness that would eventually become her professional calling. Her father, Robert Mitchell, had served as a volunteer search and rescue coordinator for Flathead County for over 20 years, and her mother, Dr. Elena Mitchell, worked as an emergency physician at the Regional Medical Center. From an early age, Sarah had been exposed to stories of wilderness rescues, medical emergencies, and the critical importance of remaining calm and focused during life-threatening situations. During her childhood, Sarah had accompanied her father on numerous training exercises and actual rescue missions appropriate for a young observer. These experiences had taught her not only the technical skills necessary for wilderness survival and rescue operations, but also the emotional resilience required to function effectively when lives hung in the balance. She had witnessed both successful rescues that reunited families and tragic outcomes that reminded everyone involved of the unforgiving nature of the wilderness environment. Sarah's academic preparation for her ranger career had been comprehensive and deliberate. She had earned a bachelor's degree in environmental science from the University of Montana, followed by specialized training in wilderness emergency medical response, technical rescue operations, and wildlife management. Her academic excellence had earned her competitive internships with the National Park Service, where she had gained practical experience in some of the most challenging wilderness environments in the country. The transition from academic preparation to professional responsibility had not been without its challenges. Sarah's first year as a ranger had included several situations that tested both her technical skills and emotional fortitude. She had participated in the rescue of injured climbers from technical rock faces, coordinated search operations for lost hikers in severe weather conditions, and provided emergency medical care in situations where professional medical assistance was hours away. Each experience had built her confidence while reinforcing the enormous responsibility that came with her role as a guardian of both wilderness areas and the people who entered them. However, nothing in Sarah's training or experience had prepared her for the complexity of the situation she now faced in the remote ravine. The presence of the child beneath Titan's protective body raised immediate questions about how a young person had come to be in such a remote and dangerous location, particularly during conditions that would challenge even experienced outdoor enthusiasts. The circumstances suggested either a tragic accident involving a family hiking expedition that had gone catastrophically wrong, or potentially more complex circumstances involving the child's presence in the wilderness. The immediate medical assessment revealed that both Titan and the child were suffering from severe hypothermia, with the dog's condition appearing slightly more stable due to his larger body mass and protective fur coat. The child's breathing was barely perceptible, and the skin visible around the face and hands showed the waxy, pale coloration that indicated dangerous core temperature depression. Sarah's emergency medical training told her that both patients required immediate warming and medical intervention, but the remote location and challenging weather conditions made rapid evacuation extremely difficult. Sarah's radio communication with Detective Castellanos and the emergency response team revealed additional complexity to the situation. The child had not been reported missing from any local community, and initial database checks had not produced any matches with missing persons reports from the region. This absence of missing person reports raised troubling questions about the child's background and the circumstances that had led to the current situation. As Sarah worked to stabilize both patients using emergency warming techniques and protective shelter construction, she found herself deeply moved by the evidence of Titan's extraordinary dedication. The German Shepherd had clearly discovered the child in distress and had made the instinctive decision to provide protection and warmth using his own body heat. The dog's positioning suggested that he had maintained this protective stance for many hours, despite his own increasing vulnerability to the deadly cold. The logistics of evacuating two critical patients from such a remote location required careful planning and coordination with multiple emergency response agencies. The nearest road access was over 2 miles away through challenging terrain, and helicopter evacuation was problematic due to the limited landing opportunities in the heavily forested ravine system. Sarah's communication with the emergency response team resulted in the deployment of a specialized wilderness rescue unit equipped with winter survival gear and medical evacuation equipment. While waiting for the arrival of additional rescue personnel, Sarah implemented emergency stabilization procedures for both patients. She constructed an improvised shelter using emergency tarps and natural windbreaks to protect against further heat loss, activated chemical heating packs to provide external warming, and began careful assessment of injuries beyond hypothermia. The child showed no obvious signs of major trauma, suggesting that the primary threat was environmental rather than resulting from a fall or other accident. Titan's condition presented unique challenges, as his protective instincts remained strong despite his weakened state. The dog continued to position himself near the child and showed signs of distress when Sarah's medical interventions required temporary separation. This behavior demonstrated the depth of the bond that had formed between the German Shepherd and the child he had chosen to protect, even though the circumstances of their initial meeting remained unclear. The arrival of the Wilderness Rescue team, led by veteran coordinator Jake Harrison, brought additional medical expertise and evacuation capabilities to the situation. Harrison, a former military paramedic with 15 years of wilderness rescue experience, immediately recognized the severity of both cases while expressing amazement at the evidence of Titan's protective behavior. The rescue team's assessment confirmed Sarah's initial medical evaluations while providing additional stabilization capabilities that improved the prospects for both patients. The evacuation process required nearly 4 hours of careful patient transport through difficult terrain, with team members rotating carrying responsibilities to maintain steady progress toward the road access point. Both Titan and the child were secured in specialized evacuation equipment designed to maintain body temperature and provide medical monitoring during transport. The coordination between multiple team members demonstrated the professional excellence that characterized Montana's wilderness rescue community. During the evacuation process, Sarah found herself reflecting on the extraordinary circumstances that had brought together a police canine dog and an unidentified child in one of the most remote areas of Glacier National Park. The evidence suggested that Titan had somehow encountered the child during or after his separation from Officer Santos and had made an instinctive decision to provide protection that had likely saved the child's life. This behavior represented an extension of the protective instincts that made German Shepherds effective police partners, applied in circumstances that went far beyond normal training scenarios. The mystery of the child's identity and presence in the wilderness remained unsolved as the evacuation team reached the road access point where ambulances and additional medical personnel waited. Initial medical assessments at the scene confirmed severe hypothermia for both patients, but suggested that the immediate intervention and gradual rewarming process had prevented more serious complications. Both Titan and the child were transported to medical facilities capable of providing the specialized care required for hypothermia recovery. Sarah's role in the rescue operation had evolved from a routine animal recovery mission to participation in a complex emergency response that had potentially saved 2 lives. The experience had tested her technical skills, emotional resilience, and ability to adapt to rapidly changing circumstances. More importantly, it had provided her with a profound example of interspecies compassion and sacrifice that would influence her understanding of the connections between humans and animals. The initial media coverage of the rescue focused on the dramatic circumstances and the extraordinary behavior demonstrated by Titan in protecting the unknown child. However, the deeper questions about the child's identity and the circumstances that had led to the situation remained unanswered. Detective Castellanos and the Kalispell Police Department launched a comprehensive investigation to determine the child's background and identify any family members or guardians who might be searching for information. As Sarah completed her official reports and debriefing sessions related to the rescue operation, she found herself unable to stop thinking about the image of Titan maintaining his protective position despite his own life-threatening condition. The German Shepherd's behavior represented a level of selfless dedication that transcended normal animal behavior and entered the realm of genuine heroism. The dog had faced a choice between self-preservation and protecting a vulnerable human being and had chosen protection despite the personal cost. The implications of the rescue extended beyond the immediate medical emergency to raise broader questions about the relationships between humans and working animals, the nature of protective instincts, and the capacity for cross-species empathy and cooperation. Sarah's experience had provided her with a first-hand example of these abstract concepts made concrete through life-threatening circumstances. The recovery process for both patients would require extensive medical care and rehabilitation, but the initial prognosis for both Titan and the child appeared positive. The dog's physical condition was expected to improve with appropriate veterinary care and rest, while the child's recovery would depend on the extent of any long-term effects from the hypothermia exposure. The medical teams treating both patients expressed optimism about full recovery, particularly given the effectiveness of the initial rescue response and stabilization procedures. Sarah's professional development had been significantly influenced by her participation in the rescue operation. The experience had provided practical application of her emergency medical training while testing her ability to adapt standard procedures to highly unusual circumstances. More importantly, it had reinforced her understanding of the profound responsibility that came with her role as a wilderness ranger and emergency responder. The broader community response to the rescue story reflected widespread admiration for both Titan's protective behavior and the effectiveness of the emergency response system that had brought together multiple agencies and individuals to save 2 lives. The story resonated with fundamental human values about protection of the vulnerable, interspecies cooperation, and the importance of professional competence in emergency situations. As the immediate crisis phase of the situation concluded, Sarah found herself anticipating the next phases of the story, particularly the investigation into the child's identity and background. The resolution of these questions would determine whether the rescue represented the conclusion of a tragic accident or the beginning of a more complex story involving family reunification, legal proceedings, or other circumstances that had yet to be revealed. The transformation of what had begun as a routine animal rescue call into a complex emergency response involving multiple patients and agencies demonstrated the unpredictable nature of wilderness ranger work. Sarah's experience reinforced the importance of comprehensive training, effective communication systems, and the professional networks that made successful outcomes possible, even in the most challenging circumstances. The challenge that emerged from the successful rescue operation proved to be far more complex than anyone initially anticipated. Within 48 hours of the emergency evacuation, it became clear that the child's presence in the wilderness represented only the beginning of a mystery that would test every aspect of Sarah's professional capabilities and personal convictions. The medical facilities treating both patients had stabilized their conditions, but the investigation into the child's identity had produced disturbing results that transformed a rescue mission into something approaching a criminal investigation. Detective Castellanos contacted Sarah on the morning of the third day, following the rescue, with information that fundamentally altered the nature of the situation. The child, now identified as 8-year-old Emma Rodriguez, had indeed been reported missing, but not from the local area as initially expected. Emma had disappeared from a foster care facility in Billings, Montana, nearly 2 weeks earlier, approximately 300 miles from where she had been discovered in Glacier National Park. The circumstances of her disappearance had triggered a multi-state search effort involving federal law enforcement agencies, social services departments, and specialized units focused on crimes against children. The revelation of Emma's background as a missing foster child raised immediate questions about how she had traveled such a considerable distance and survived in wilderness conditions that would challenge experienced adults. The timeline suggested that Emma had been missing for approximately 10 days before Titan discovered her in the ravine, indicating that she had somehow managed to survive in the Montana wilderness during a period that included several severe weather events and nighttime, temperatures well below freezing. Sarah's initial reaction to this information combined professional concern with personal outrage at the circumstances that had placed a vulnerable child in such extreme danger. Her background in wilderness survival and emergency response provided clear understanding of how miraculous Emma's survival had been, even with Titan's protection during the final critical hours. The fact that an 8-year-old child had endured such conditions spoke to either extraordinary resilience or circumstances that had provided some form of shelter and support during the earlier phases of her ordeal. The investigation team assembled to address Emma's case included representatives from multiple agencies with jurisdiction over different aspects of the situation. The Federal Bureau of Investigation assumed primary responsibility for the interstate aspects of the case, while the Montana Department of Family Services focused on Emma's foster care history and the circumstances of her disappearance. Local law enforcement agencies coordinated search efforts for any additional missing persons who might be connected to Emma's presence in the wilderness area. Sarah's role in the expanding investigation initially focused on her expertise in wilderness survival and her intimate knowledge of the specific area where Emma had been discovered. The investigative team required detailed analysis of the terrain, weather conditions, and potential shelter locations that might explain how Emma had survived for an extended period before Titan found her. This analysis demanded comprehensive understanding of both human survival capabilities and the specific environmental challenges present in Glacier National Park during late autumn conditions. The medical evaluation of Emma's condition provided additional clues about her wilderness experience while raising new questions about the circumstances of her survival. Despite the severe hypothermia that had threatened her life when discovered, Emma showed evidence of having received adequate nutrition and hydration during most of her time in the wilderness. This evidence suggested that she had either possessed significant survival resources or had received assistance from sources that remained unidentified. Titan's recovery process provided its own insights into the timeline and circumstances of his encounter with Emma. Veterinary examination revealed that the German Shepherd had sustained minor injuries consistent with extended travel through rough terrain, but his overall condition suggested that his protective vigil over Emma had lasted approximately 12 to 18 hours rather than the full duration of her wilderness experience. This timeline indicated that Emma had been surviving independently, or with other assistance, for the majority of her time missing from the foster care facility. The challenge facing Sarah and the investigative team extended beyond simply determining Emma's survival mechanisms to encompass broader questions about the foster care system failures that had contributed to her disappearance. Emma's case file revealed a history of placement instability, with multiple foster home assignments over the preceding 2 years following her removal from an abusive biological family situation. The pattern of placements suggested systemic problems that had failed to provide Emma with the stability and protection that vulnerable children required. Sarah's professional expertise proved valuable in reconstructing Emma's probable route through the wilderness area, but this technical analysis revealed the magnitude of the challenge facing a young child attempting to survive independently in such demanding conditions. The terrain between Billings and Glacier National Park included hundreds of miles of varied landscapes, multiple climate zones, and numerous obstacles that would challenge even experienced hikers with proper equipment and preparation. The discovery of a makeshift campsite approximately 2 miles from where Emma had been found provided the first concrete evidence of her survival strategy and raised new questions about whether she had received assistance during her wilderness ordeal. The campsite showed evidence of recent use and included improvised shelter construction, food storage methods, and fire management techniques that exceeded what would be expected from an 8-year-old child acting independently. Analysis of the campsite revealed that Emma had not been alone during at least part of her wilderness experience. Evidence suggested the presence of at least one adult who had provided instruction, assistance, or direct support during her survival efforts. This discovery transformed the investigation from a case of child endangerment through neglect to potential criminal activity involving abduction, unlawful flight, and child welfare violations. The complexity of Emma's case required Sarah to expand her professional role beyond wilderness expertise to include collaboration with social services professionals, law enforcement investigators, and child welfare advocates. This expansion challenged her to apply her technical knowledge in contexts that involved legal proceedings, family dynamics, and systemic social issues that extended far beyond her ranger training and experience. Emma's gradual recovery in the pediatric intensive care unit provided opportunities for careful interviews that began to reveal the story of her wilderness experience. The information she provided filtered through the limitations of childhood memory and trauma response, suggested that she had indeed received assistance from an adult companion during the early phases of her time in the wilderness. This companion had apparently taught her basic survival skills and provided protection until circumstances had separated them shortly before Titan discovered her alone in the ravine. The identity and whereabouts of Emma's mysterious companion became the central focus of the expanded investigation. The evidence suggested someone with significant wilderness experience who had been capable of keeping both himself and Emma alive in challenging conditions for an extended period. The motivations for this person's involvement with Emma remained unclear, raising questions about whether the relationship represented rescue, abduction, or some combination of circumstances that defied simple categorization. Sarah's analysis of the terrain and weather conditions during Emma's wilderness experience provided crucial context for understanding the survival challenges that both Emma and her companion had faced. The period included several severe weather events that would have required sophisticated shelter construction and resource management to survive. The successful navigation of these challenges suggested either extensive preparation or exceptional wilderness expertise on the part of Emma's companion. The investigation revealed that Emma's disappearance from the foster care facility had been preceded by several incidents that suggested her dissatisfaction with her placement and her desire to escape the system that had failed to provide stability. These incidents included previous attempts to leave the facility, conflicts with foster parents and facility staff, and expressions of desire to find family members who might provide permanent placement. The possibility that Emma's wilderness companion might be a relative or family friend who had learned of her situation and attempted an unauthorized rescue created additional complexity for the investigation. Such circumstances would involve violations of custody arrangements and legal processes, while potentially representing genuine concern for Emma's welfare within a system that had demonstrably failed to protect her interests. Sarah's involvement in the case had evolved from emergency responder to expert witness in a complex investigation that touched on wilderness survival, child welfare systems, family law, and potentially federal crimes. This evolution required her to develop new professional relationships and expand her understanding of legal and social service systems that intersected with wilderness management and emergency response. The media attention surrounding Emma's case had grown significantly as details of her survival story became public. The combination of wilderness survival, animal heroism, and child welfare issues created widespread public interest that brought both positive attention and unwanted scrutiny to all aspects of the investigation. Sarah found herself navigating media requests while maintaining professional obligations to protect both the ongoing investigation and Emma's privacy. The challenge of Emma's case extended beyond the immediate circumstances of her rescue and recovery to encompass fundamental questions about child protection systems, wilderness safety, and the responsibilities of various professional communities to vulnerable populations. Sarah's experience had positioned her at the intersection of these complex issues, requiring her to consider how her professional expertise might contribute to systemic improvements that could prevent similar situations. The ongoing investigation required Sarah to balance her primary responsibilities as a wilderness ranger with her expanding role in Emma's case. This balance challenged her time management and professional focus while providing opportunities for professional development that extended far beyond her original career expectations. The experience demonstrated how individual cases could evolve into broader professional responsibilities that required adaptation and growth. Emma's continued recovery and gradual willingness to share details of her experience provided hope for resolution of the outstanding questions, while highlighting the resilience and courage that had enabled her survival. Her story represented both individual triumph over extraordinary adversity and systematic failure to protect a vulnerable child, creating a complex narrative that resisted simple interpretation or resolution. The challenge facing Sarah and the investigative team required sustained effort over an extended period while maintaining sensitivity to Emma's recovery needs and legal requirements. The resolution would depend on their ability to piece together a complex series of events while addressing the broader systemic issues that had contributed to Emma's dangerous situation. The implications of Emma's case extended beyond individual circumstances to raise questions about wilderness access, child protection protocols, and the coordination between various agencies responsible for public safety and child welfare. Sarah's experience had provided her with unique insights into these interconnected systems and their potential for both success and failure in protecting vulnerable populations. The transformative moment that would reshape the entire trajectory of the investigation occurred on the 7th day following Emma's rescue, when a startling discovery fundamentally altered everyone's understanding of the situation. Sarah had returned to the original rescue site to conduct a comprehensive forensic analysis of the area, accompanied by FBI Special Agent Monica Chen and Dr. Patricia Kellerman, a forensic anthropologist specializing in wilderness crime scenes. Their systematic examination of the expanded search area would uncover evidence that transformed the case from a child welfare investigation into something far more significant and complex. The decision to conduct this detailed forensic examination had emerged from inconsistencies in Emma's gradually emerging recollections of her wilderness experience. During her recovery interviews, Emma had mentioned details about her time in the mountains that suggested the presence of other individuals beyond her unidentified companion. These references included descriptions of voices, conversations, and activities that indicated a more complex social situation than had been initially understood. The investigative team recognized that a thorough examination of the physical evidence might provide crucial information about the full scope of Emma's wilderness experience. Sarah's role in this forensic examination drew upon her comprehensive knowledge of the terrain, her expertise in wilderness survival patterns, and her developing understanding of the specific circumstances surrounding Emma's rescue. Her collaboration with federal investigators represented a significant expansion of her professional responsibilities, requiring her to apply ranger skills in contexts that involved criminal investigation techniques and legal evidence collection protocols. This evolution challenged her to develop new competencies while maintaining the high standards of accuracy and professionalism that characterized her wilderness management work. The forensic team's systematic approach to the examination began with detailed documentation of the original rescue site, including photographic records, precise measurements, and comprehensive cataloging of any physical evidence that might provide insights into the timeline and circumstances of Emma's ordeal. This documentation process required several hours of meticulous work, with each team member contributing specialized expertise to ensure that no potentially significant evidence was overlooked or improperly recorded. The expansion of the search area beyond the immediate rescue site revealed additional campsites and evidence of extended human activity that had not been apparent during the emergency response phase of the operation. These discoveries suggested that Emma's wilderness experience had involved movement between multiple locations and potentially extended contact with several individuals rather than the single companion that had been initially theorized. The implications of this expanded activity pattern required fundamental reconsideration of the assumptions that had guided the investigation to this point. The most significant discovery occurred when Sarah identified what appeared to be a carefully concealed cache of supplies located approximately half a mile from the original rescue site. The cache had been constructed with sophisticated camouflage, techniques that rendered it virtually invisible to casual observation, but Sarah's trained eye recognized subtle environmental indicators that suggested human modification of the natural landscape. The discovery of this cache would prove to be the pivotal moment that transformed the entire investigation. The contents of the supply cache revealed a level of organization and preparation that exceeded anything the investigative team had anticipated. The cache contained extensive food supplies, medical equipment, communication devices, detailed topographic maps and documentation that immediately elevated the case to national security significance. Among the most startling discoveries were multiple sets of identification documents, including what appeared to be authentic government credentials and access cards that suggested connections to federal agencies and classified operations. Dr. Kellerman's examination of the cache contents revealed evidence of recent use and systematic organization that indicated ongoing operations rather than abandoned supplies. The food containers showed consumption patterns consistent with multiple individuals over an extended period, while the medical supplies included items that suggested treatment of various injuries and conditions. The communication equipment included sophisticated devices capable of encrypted transmission and satellite communication, far exceeding the technology that would be expected in a wilderness survival situation. Special Agent Chen's analysis of the documentation found within the cache revealed connections to federal law enforcement operations that had been classified at the highest levels of government security. The discovery of these materials in a remote wilderness cache raised immediate questions about the potential compromise of ongoing operations and the security implications of Emma's inadvertent involvement in what appeared to be a complex federal law enforcement or intelligence operation. The revelation that Emma's wilderness experience had intersected with classified federal operations fundamentally altered the scope and nature of the investigation. The case was immediately elevated to the attention of multiple federal agencies, including the Department of Homeland Security, the Central Intelligence Agency, and specialized units within the Department of Justice. Sarah found herself at the center of an investigation that had evolved from local child welfare concerns to matters of national security significance. The implications of this discovery extended far beyond Emma's individual circumstances to encompass questions about operational security, witness protection protocols, and the potential exposure of sensitive government activities. The investigative team faced the challenge of balancing Emma's welfare and recovery needs with the security requirements of ongoing federal operations that might have been compromised by her presence in the wilderness area. Sarah's unique position as the individual who had conducted the original rescue and possessed the most comprehensive knowledge of the physical evidence made her an essential participant in the expanded investigation. However, this role required her to obtain federal security clearances and submit to extensive background investigations that would determine her eligibility to participate in classified aspects of the case. The process represented a significant professional transition that would permanently alter her career trajectory and responsibilities. The security implications of the cache discovery required immediate protective measures for all individuals who had been involved in the investigation, including Emma, her medical care providers, and the members of the original rescue team. These protective measures included temporary relocation to secure facilities, restricted communication protocols, and comprehensive security assessments to determine potential exposure to threats that might emerge from the compromised operations. Emma's gradual disclosure of additional details about her wilderness experience, viewed in light of the cache discovery, revealed that she had indeed encountered multiple individuals during her time in the mountains. These individuals had apparently been engaged in activities that they had attempted to conceal from her, but her natural curiosity and survival instincts had led her to observe and remember details that had significant intelligence value for the federal investigation. The complexity of Emma's situation required the development of specialized interview protocols that could elicit accurate information while protecting her psychological well-being and maintaining the security of ongoing operations. This process required collaboration between child psychology experts, federal investigators, and intelligence analysts who could evaluate the significance of Emma's observations while ensuring that her recovery process remained the primary consideration. The expansion of the investigation revealed that Emma's mysterious wilderness companion had been a federal agent who had been conducting surveillance operations in the area when he encountered her initial escape from the foster care facility. The agent's decision to provide assistance and protection to Emma had been motivated by humanitarian concerns, but it had also compromised his operational security and potentially endangered ongoing federal law enforcement activities. The agent's current whereabouts remained unknown, with evidence suggesting that he had been forced to abandon his position and potentially his identity following Emma's separation from his protection. The circumstances of this separation remained unclear, but the evidence suggested that it had occurred under duress and had left Emma vulnerable to the environmental dangers that had nearly claimed her life before Titan's intervention. Sarah's analysis of the terrain and timeline suggested that the agent had been forced to choose between maintaining his operational security and ensuring Emma's immediate safety. The evidence indicated that he had made the difficult decision to prioritize Emma's welfare, but that circumstances had prevented him from ensuring her complete safety before his disappearance. This sacrifice had created the conditions that led to Emma's desperate situation and Titan's heroic intervention. The investigation team faced the challenge of locating the missing agent while maintaining operational security and protecting Emma from potential threats that might emerge from the compromised operations. This process required coordination between multiple federal agencies and the development of search protocols that could locate the agent without further compromising ongoing operations or endangering additional personnel. The media attention surrounding Emma's case had already created public awareness that could potentially interfere with the sensitive aspects of the investigation. The federal agencies involved faced the challenge of managing public information, while maintaining operational security and protecting the integrity of ongoing operations. This balance required careful coordination between public affairs specialists and operational security experts. Sarah's role in the expanding investigation required her to balance her obligations to Emma's welfare with her responsibilities to national security interests. This balance challenged her to consider how her professional expertise could contribute to both individual protection and broader security objectives while maintaining her commitment to the wilderness preservation and public safety missions that had originally motivated her career choice. The discovery of the cache and its implications created urgency around resolving Emma's situation while addressing the broader security concerns that had emerged from the investigation. The investigative team recognized that Emma's continued recovery and eventual placement would require resolution of the security issues that had created her dangerous situation, while also ensuring that her future safety and well-being remained protected. The incident had transformed Sarah's understanding of her professional responsibilities and the potential intersections between wilderness management and national security concerns. Her experience demonstrated how individual cases could evolve into complex situations that required integration of multiple professional disciplines and coordination between various levels of government authority. The challenge facing the investigative team required sustained effort to resolve both Emma's immediate needs and the broader security implications of her wilderness experience. The resolution would depend on their ability to locate the missing agent, secure the compromised operations, and ensure Emma's long-term safety while maintaining the confidentiality and security requirements that protected ongoing federal law enforcement activities. The arrival of Deputy Director Catherine Walsh at the Federal Coordination Center marked a turning point in both the investigation and Sarah's professional development. Walsh, a 23-year veteran of federal law enforcement with extensive experience in complex multi-agency operations, had been assigned to oversee the coordination of resources and personnel involved in what had become known within government circles as Operation Guardian Shield. Her reputation for managing sensitive cases while maintaining focus on humanitarian objectives made her uniquely qualified to guide the investigation through its increasingly complex phases. Deputy Director Walsh possessed a distinguished career trajectory that encompassed multiple federal agencies and specialized units within the Department of Homeland Security. Her early career had focused on border security operations along the Canadian frontier, where she had developed expertise in wilderness operations and cross-jurisdictional coordination. Her subsequent assignments had included counterintelligence operations, witness protection coordination, and oversight of classified programs that intersected civilian and military authorities. This comprehensive background provided her with the technical expertise and institutional knowledge necessary to navigate the unique challenges presented by Emma's case. Walsh's initial assessment of the situation revealed both the complexity of the operational challenges and the exceptional quality of the work that had been performed by the existing investigative team. Her review of Sarah's contributions to the investigation, including the forensic analysis that had led to the discovery of the supply cache, demonstrated professional excellence that exceeded normal expectations for wilderness management personnel. This recognition would prove instrumental in shaping Sarah's expanded role within the federal investigation structure. The mentoring relationship that developed between Walsh and Sarah emerged from practical necessity rather than formal assignment. Sarah's unique combination of wilderness expertise, local knowledge, and demonstrated investigative capabilities made her essential to the ongoing operation, while her lack of experience in federal law enforcement protocols required comprehensive guidance and support. Walsh recognized that Sarah's development would determine the success of critical aspects of the investigation, while also representing an opportunity to cultivate exceptional talent within the federal law enforcement community. Walsh's approach to mentorship reflected her understanding that effective guidance required adaptation to individual learning styles and professional backgrounds. Sarah's Ranger training had emphasized practical problem-solving, environmental assessment, and emergency response capabilities that translated effectively to federal investigation work, but required supplementation with understanding of legal frameworks, security protocols, and interagency coordination processes. Walsh designed a comprehensive development program that built upon Sarah's existing strengths while addressing the knowledge gaps that could limit her effectiveness. The initial phases of Walsh's mentorship focused on providing Sarah with the contextual understanding necessary to appreciate the broader implications of Emma's case within the federal law enforcement landscape. This education included briefings on the specific operations that had been compromised by Emma's presence in the wilderness area, the potential security threats that emerged from operational exposure, and the protocols that governed federal response to such compromises. These briefings required Sarah to obtain additional security clearances and demonstrate her reliability within the federal security framework. Walsh's teaching methodology emphasized experiential learning through direct involvement in investigation. Activities rather than theoretical instruction separated from practical application. This approach allowed Sarah to develop federal investigation skills while contributing immediately to the ongoing operation, creating mutual benefit for both her professional development and the investigation's progress. The integration of learning and operational contribution reflected Walsh's understanding that effective mentorship required immediate relevance and tangible impact. The complexity of Emma's case provided numerous opportunities for Sarah to develop specialized competencies. Under Walsh's guidance, these learning opportunities included advanced forensic analysis techniques, federal legal procedures, interagency communication protocols, and specialized interview methods designed for sensitive witness protection situations. Each area of development required Sarah to integrate her existing wilderness management expertise with new federal law enforcement knowledge and procedures. Walsh's assessment of Sarah's potential extended beyond her current case contributions to encompass her long-term career development within federal service. This broader perspective led Walsh to design mentorship activities that would prepare Sarah for expanded responsibilities within the federal law enforcement community while maintaining her connection to wilderness management and environmental protection missions. The integration of these career paths represented an innovative approach to federal talent development that could benefit both individual professional growth and institutional capabilities. The investigation of the missing federal agent required Sarah to apply her wilderness tracking and analysis skills within the framework of federal security protocols and operational requirements. Walsh's guidance in this area focused on helping Sarah understand how her technical expertise could contribute to federal objectives while maintaining the security and confidentiality requirements that protected ongoing operations and personnel safety. This integration challenged Sarah to expand her professional perspective while maintaining the core competencies that made her valuable to the investigation. Walsh's experience with witness protection operations proved particularly valuable in addressing Emma's complex needs and circumstances. Her guidance helped Sarah understand the psychological and logistical challenges involved in protecting vulnerable individuals who possessed sensitive information while ensuring their long-term safety and recovery. This understanding required Sarah to consider how her immediate rescue and care activities fit within broader protection strategies that might extend for years into the future. The mentorship relationship also addressed the personal and professional challenges that emerged from Sarah's rapid transition from wilderness ranger to federal investigator. Walsh recognized that this transition involved not only technical skill development, but also adaptation to different professional cultures, ethical frameworks, and performance expectations. Her guidance helped Sarah navigate these transitions while maintaining her personal integrity and professional identity within the expanded federal law enforcement context. Walsh's oversight of the investigation revealed patterns of activity that suggested the compromised operations had been more extensive and significant than initially understood. Her analysis of the intelligence gathered from the supply cache and Emma's recollections indicated that the wilderness area had been the site of a long-term federal surveillance operation targeting domestic terrorist activities. The implications of this discovery required immediate expansion of the investigation and deployment of additional federal resources to assess and address potential security threats. The domestic terrorism connections revealed by Walsh's analysis transformed Emma's case from an isolated incident into a component of broader national security concerns. This expansion required Sarah to understand the intersection between wilderness management responsibilities and domestic security obligations, including the potential for wilderness areas to be exploited by individuals or groups seeking to avoid federal law enforcement attention. Walsh's guidance helped Sarah appreciate how her future wilderness management activities might contribute to broader security objectives while maintaining her primary conservation and public safety missions. The search for the missing federal agent intensified under Walsh's direction, with Sarah's terrain analysis providing crucial insights into probable movement patterns and potential shelter locations. Walsh's coordination of this search effort demonstrated advanced operational planning capabilities that integrated multiple agency resources while maintaining operational security requirements. Her mentorship helped Sarah understand how her wilderness expertise contributed to these complex coordination efforts while developing her own capabilities in multi-agency operation planning. Emma's continued recovery and gradual disclosure of additional information about her wilderness experience provided ongoing opportunities for Sarah to develop specialized interview and analysis skills under Walsh's supervision. These activities required Sarah to balance her natural empathy and care for Emma's welfare with the objective analysis requirements of federal investigation work. Walsh's guidance helped Sarah navigate these potentially conflicting obligations while maintaining effectiveness in both humanitarian and investigative dimensions of her expanding responsibilities. The media management challenges associated with Emma's case required Walsh to coordinate public information activities while protecting operational security and Emma's privacy rights. Her approach to this challenge provided Sarah with insights into the complex relationships between public transparency obligations and security requirements that characterized much of federal law enforcement work. This understanding would prove essential for Sarah's future development within federal service. Career paths. Walsh's analysis of the broader implications of Emma's case extended beyond immediate operational concerns to encompass policy recommendations and systemic improvements that could prevent similar situations in the future. Her mentorship encouraged Sarah to consider how individual cases could inform broader improvements in wilderness management, child protection systems, and federal law enforcement coordination mechanisms. This perspective challenged Sarah to think strategically about her professional contributions and their potential impact beyond immediate operational objectives. The development of comprehensive protection protocols for Emma required Walsh to coordinate between federal security requirements and child welfare best practices, creating innovative approaches that addressed both immediate safety needs and long-term development objectives. Her mentorship helped Sarah understand how these complex coordination challenges required integration of multiple professional disciplines and regulatory frameworks while maintaining focus on individual welfare and recovery outcomes. Walsh's leadership of the investigation demonstrated advanced crisis management capabilities that maintained operational effectiveness while adapting to rapidly evolving circumstances and emerging threats. Her mentorship provided Sarah with practical experience in high-stakes decision-making under uncertainty, resource allocation under pressure, and coordination of diverse professional teams working toward common objectives. These experiences contributed significantly to Sarah's professional development while providing immediate value to the ongoing investigation. The resolution of Emma's immediate safety and security needs required Walsh to develop long-term protection strategies that could ensure her welfare while addressing the ongoing security concerns that had emerged from her wilderness experience. This planning process involved coordination with multiple federal agencies, state child welfare systems, and specialized protection services that could provide comprehensive support for Emma's continued recovery and development. Walsh's approach to this challenge provided Sarah with insights into the complex planning and coordination requirements that characterized federal protection operations. The moment of decision arrived on the 10th day following Emma's rescue, when Deputy Director Walsh presented Sarah with an opportunity that would fundamentally reshape her professional trajectory and personal mission. The federal investigation had reached a critical juncture where Sarah's unique combination of wilderness expertise and demonstrated investigative capabilities had become essential for resolving the complex security challenges that had emerged from Emma's case. The decision she faced required careful consideration of her existing commitments, professional aspirations, and the broader implications of accepting expanded federal responsibilities. Walsh's formal offer came during a comprehensive briefing session that outlined the full scope of the federal operation and Sarah's potential role within the expanded investigation structure. The position offered was unprecedented within federal law enforcement, representing a newly created liaison role that would bridge wilderness management expertise with national security operations. The responsibilities would encompass ongoing investigation support, development of wilderness security protocols, and coordination between federal agencies and local wilderness management authorities. The professional implications of accepting the federal position extended far beyond immediate case responsibilities to encompass long-term career development within the federal law enforcement community. The role would require Sarah to relocate to Washington, D.C. for initial training and orientation, followed by field assignments that could take her to wilderness areas throughout the United States, where federal security concerns intersected with environmental protection missions. This geographic flexibility represented both opportunity for professional growth and challenge to personal relationships and community connections. Sarah's consideration of the offer required careful evaluation of her existing commitments to Glacier National Park and the wilderness management responsibilities that had originally motivated her career choice. Her 3 years of service as a ranger had established professional relationships and ongoing projects that would require transition to other personnel if she accepted the federal position. The impact of her departure on park operations and colleague responsibilities created ethical considerations that weighed heavily in her decision-making process. The financial and benefit aspects of the federal position provided significant improvements over her current ranger compensation, including enhanced healthcare coverage, federal retirement benefits, and professional development opportunities that would support long-term career advancement. These improvements would provide greater financial security while enabling her to pursue advanced education and specialized training that would enhance her professional capabilities. The economic considerations, while not determinative, represented important factors in her comprehensive evaluation of the opportunity. The personal significance of the decision extended beyond professional considerations to encompass her fundamental sense of purpose and mission within public service. Sarah's original motivation for wilderness management had been rooted in environmental protection and public safety objectives that aligned closely with the expanded federal responsibilities being offered. The opportunity to apply her wilderness expertise to national security challenges represented a natural evolution of her service mission, while maintaining connection to the environmental values that had shaped her career choice. Emma's ongoing recovery and the unresolved questions surrounding her wilderness experience created additional urgency around Sarah's decision. The investigation had reached a point where her continued involvement was essential for locating the missing federal agent and ensuring Emma's long-term security. The personal connection she had developed with Emma through the rescue and recovery process created moral obligations that influenced her consideration of the federal role and its potential impact on Emma's welfare. Walsh's presentation of the federal position included comprehensive information about the training and support systems that would facilitate Sarah's transition to federal service. The initial training program would span 6 months and include specialized instruction in federal law enforcement procedures, intelligence analysis techniques, interagency coordination protocols, and advanced wilderness security assessment methods. This training would be conducted at federal facilities while maintaining her involvement in Emma's case through remote participation and periodic field assignments. The decision-making process required Sarah to consult with family members, professional, colleagues, and personal advisors who could provide perspective on the implications of accepting expanded federal responsibilities. Her parents, Dr. Elena Mitchell and Robert Mitchell, provided strong support for her professional advancement while expressing natural concerns about the increased security risks and geographic mobility that would accompany federal service. Their guidance emphasized the importance of following her professional instincts while maintaining awareness of personal safety and security considerations. Sarah's colleagues within the National Park Service provided mixed reactions to news of the federal opportunity, with some expressing enthusiasm for her professional advancement, while others voiced concerns about the loss of her expertise and leadership within wilderness management operations. These colleague perspectives provided valuable insights into the impact of her potential departure on park operations, while affirming the professional respect and confidence that her work had earned within the wilderness management community. The consultation process also included discussions with law enforcement professionals who could provide insights into the realities of federal service and the unique challenges associated with multi-agency operations. These conversations revealed both the professional opportunities and personal demands that characterized federal law enforcement careers, including the potential for extended assignments, security restrictions, and the psychological challenges of working with sensitive national security information. Emma's medical and psychological care team provided additional perspective on the importance of continuity in her support system and the potential impact of changes in the personnel involved. In her case, their professional assessment indicated that Emma had developed trust relationships with specific individuals involved in her rescue and recovery, including Sarah, and that disruption of these relationships could affect her continued healing and adjustment. This information created additional considerations for Sarah's decision-making process. The broader implications of the federal position extended beyond individual career advancement to encompass potential contributions to systemic improvements in wilderness security and child protection protocols. Walsh's briefing had outlined how Sarah's role would involve development of best practices and policy recommendations that could prevent similar situations in the future while enhancing coordination between federal security operations and wilderness management activities. These broader contributions aligned with Sarah's desire to make meaningful impact through her professional work. The timeline for decision-making was compressed due to the ongoing operational requirements of Emma's case and the need to maintain momentum in the search for the missing federal agent. Walsh indicated that Sarah's decision would need to be made within 48 hours to allow for proper coordination with federal training schedules and operational planning requirements. This compressed timeline required Sarah to prioritize her decision-making process while ensuring adequate consideration of all relevant factors. Sarah's acceptance of the federal position represented a conscious choice to expand her service mission beyond traditional wilderness management boundaries, to encompass broader national security responsibilities. Her decision was motivated by recognition that her unique skill set could contribute significantly to federal operations while maintaining her fundamental commitment to public service and environmental protection. The acceptance also reflected her confidence in her ability to adapt to expanded responsibilities while maintaining the professional excellence that had characterized her Ranger career. The formal acceptance process required Sarah to complete extensive background investigation procedures, security clearance applications, and federal employment documentation that would authorize her participation in classified operations. These administrative requirements represented the beginning of her transition to federal service, while maintaining her involvement in the ongoing investigation activities that had originally brought her into contact with federal operations. Sarah's decision to accept the federal position was communicated to her National Park Service supervisors through formal channels that ensured proper transition planning and continuity of her existing responsibilities. Her departure from the Ranger Service was structured to minimize disruption to park operations while providing adequate time for knowledge transfer and project transition to other personnel. The professional manner of her transition maintained positive relationships within the wilderness management community, while opening pathways for future collaboration between federal agencies and Park Service operations. The personal announcement of her decision to family and friends generated mixed reactions that reflected both pride in her professional advancement and concern about the changes that federal service would bring to her personal life. These conversations reinforced the significance of her decision while providing emotional support for the challenges and opportunities that lay ahead. The support of her personal network provided confidence in her ability to succeed in her expanded responsibilities while maintaining the relationships and values that defined her identity. Emma's reaction to news of Sarah's expanded role in the federal investigation provided additional validation for the decision while highlighting the personal connections that had developed through the rescue and recovery process. Emma's trust and confidence in Sarah's continued involvement in her case provided motivation for excellence in the federal position, while reinforcing the humanitarian objectives that would guide her approach to national security responsibilities. The acceptance of the federal position marked the beginning of a new chapter in Sarah's professional development that would integrate her wilderness management expertise with national security operations in unprecedented ways. Her decision represented both personal commitment to expanded service and institutional recognition of the value that wilderness expertise could bring to federal law enforcement operations. The position provided opportunities for professional growth while maintaining connection to the environmental and public safety missions that had originally motivated her career choice. The transition to federal service required Sarah to begin immediate preparation for the training and operational responsibilities that would define her new role. This preparation included advanced physical conditioning, preliminary study of federal procedures and protocols, and continued involvement in Emma's case through coordination with the ongoing investigation team. The comprehensive nature of this preparation reflected the complexity and importance of the responsibility she was accepting while providing foundation for success in her expanded role. Sarah's transition into the federal law enforcement environment began with her arrival at the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center in Brunswick, Georgia, where she would undergo comprehensive preparation for her unprecedented role as wilderness security liaison. The facility represented a stark contrast to the natural environments where she had spent her professional career, with institutional architecture and structured protocols that emphasized the systematic approach characterizing federal operations. Her integration into this environment required fundamental adaptation while maintaining the core competencies that had made her valuable to the federal investigation. The initial orientation process revealed the scope and complexity of federal law enforcement operations that extended far beyond her previous experience or understanding. Sarah encountered career federal agents whose expertise spanned counterterrorism, organized crime investigation, cybersecurity operations, and international law enforcement coordination. These professionals possessed decades of experience in complex investigations that routinely involved multiple agencies, classified information, and operational security requirements that demanded absolute precision and reliability. The training curriculum designed specifically for Sarah's role integrated traditional federal law enforcement instruction with specialized modules addressing wilderness operations, environmental crime investigation, and the intersection between national security concerns and public land management. This comprehensive approach required her to develop proficiency in federal legal frameworks, evidence collection procedures, surveillance techniques, and communication protocols, while maintaining her wilderness expertise and environmental protection knowledge. Sarah's fellow trainees included experienced law enforcement professionals transitioning between federal agencies, military personnel entering civilian federal service, and specialists recruited from various professional backgrounds to address emerging operational requirements. The diversity of experience and expertise within the training cohort provided valuable learning opportunities while challenging Sarah to demonstrate the unique value that her wilderness management background brought to federal operations. The physical training requirements exceeded those of traditional wilderness management positions, incorporating firearms proficiency, defensive tactics, surveillance techniques, and emergency response procedures that reflected the security risks associated with federal law enforcement operations. These training components required Sarah to develop new physical capabilities, while adapting her existing wilderness survival and emergency response skills to federal operational contexts and security requirements. The academic instruction addressed federal law, constitutional principles, evidence handling procedures, and interagency coordination protocols that governed complex federal investigations. This instruction required Sarah to understand legal frameworks that she had never encountered in wilderness management work, including federal jurisdiction principles, constitutional protections for suspects and witnesses, and procedural requirements that ensured the admissibility of evidence in federal court proceedings. The specialized wilderness security instruction represented the most innovative aspect of Sarah's training program, addressing the intersection between environmental protection and national security concerns that had emerged from Emma's case. This instruction covered threat assessment in remote areas, coordination between federal agencies and local land management authorities, and the development of security protocols that could protect both operational security and environmental values simultaneously. Sarah's adaptation to federal training protocols required adjustment to institutional culture that emphasized hierarchy, standardized procedures, and collective responsibility for operational security. These cultural elements differed significantly from the collaborative and mission-focused approach that characterized wilderness management operations, requiring her to develop new professional behaviors while maintaining the initiative and problem-solving capabilities that had distinguished her ranger performance. The integration of classroom instruction with practical exercises provided opportunities for Sarah to apply federal procedures in simulated operational environments that tested both her technical skills and adaptability under pressure. These exercises included mock investigations, evidence collection scenarios, and multi-agency coordination simulations that required her to demonstrate proficiency in federal operations while contributing her wilderness expertise to team objectives. The development of her security clearance through extensive background investigation procedures represented a significant milestone in her transition to federal service. This process required comprehensive disclosure of personal history, financial information, and professional relationships while demonstrating reliability and trustworthiness appropriate for access to classified national security information. The clearance process reinforced the serious nature of her new responsibilities while confirming her eligibility for full participation in federal operations. The ongoing coordination with Emma's case provided practical application opportunities. for Sarah's developing federal skills while maintaining her connection to the humanitarian objectives that had motivated her career transition. These coordination activities included secure communication with the investigation team, analysis of new evidence using federal procedures, and contribution to strategic planning for locating the missing federal agent who had protected Emma during her wilderness ordeal. The mentorship relationship with Deputy Director Walsh continued through regular communication that provided guidance on Sarah's training progress while keeping her informed about developments in Emma's case and the broader investigation. Walsh's continued oversight ensured that Sarah's federal training remained aligned with operational requirements, while providing professional development opportunities that would support her long-term career advancement within federal service. The exposure to classified information and operational security requirements represented perhaps the most significant adjustment required for Sarah's transition to federal service. The responsibility for protecting sensitive information required constant awareness of security protocols, restricted communication procedures, and operational security measures that protected both ongoing investigations and personnel safety. This responsibility demanded fundamental changes in her professional behavior and personal communication patterns. The development of specialized skills in evidence analysis, witness interview techniques, and intelligence assessment provided Sarah with capabilities that complemented her wilderness expertise, while expanding her professional value within federal operations. These skills required understanding of human psychology, legal requirements, and analytical methodologies that had not been part of her wilderness management training, but proved essential for federal law enforcement effectiveness. The integration of technology systems used in federal operations required Sarah to develop proficiency with sophisticated communication equipment, database systems, and analytical software that supported complex investigations. These technical capabilities enabled her to contribute effectively to federal operations while maintaining secure communication with colleagues and supervisors involved in sensitive investigations and operational planning activities. The physical relocation required for federal training and eventual assignment created personal challenges that tested Sarah's adaptability and commitment to her expanded professional responsibilities. The separation from family, friends, and familiar environments required emotional resilience while maintaining focus on professional development objectives and operational responsibilities that demanded consistent, high-level performance. The exposure to federal operational planning processes revealed the complexity and coordination requirements that characterized major federal law enforcement operations. Sarah's participation in planning sessions and strategic discussions provided insights into resource allocation, risk assessment, and multi-agency coordination that demonstrated the sophisticated analytical and organizational capabilities required for successful federal operations. The development of professional relationships within the federal law enforcement community provided Sarah with mentor figures, peer support networks, and collaborative partnerships that would support her continued professional development while enhancing her effectiveness in her specialized role. These relationships represented valuable career assets while providing personal support for the challenges associated with federal service responsibilities. The ongoing assessment of her training progress by federal supervisors and instructors provided feedback on her development while identifying areas requiring additional attention or specialized instruction. This assessment process ensured that her preparation met federal standards while recognizing the unique value that her wilderness expertise brought to federal operations and her potential for continued professional advancement. The integration of her federal training with ongoing responsibilities related to Emma's case required careful time management and priority coordination that demonstrated her ability to handle multiple complex responsibilities simultaneously. This integration tested her organizational capabilities while providing practical application opportunities that reinforced her federal training through real-world operational involvement. The completion of initial training phases marked significant milestones in Sarah's transition to federal service while preparing her for field assignments that would test her abilities in operational environments. These milestones provided confidence in her preparation while highlighting the continued learning and adaptation that would characterize her federal career development and operational effectiveness. The anticipation of field assignment opportunities created both excitement about applying her expanded capabilities and awareness of the operational challenges that would test her federal training and wilderness expertise in real-world situations. These upcoming assignments represented the culmination of her training, while marking the beginning of her active contribution to federal law enforcement operations that would define her professional impact and career trajectory. Sarah's first major operational assignment arrived 3 weeks into her federal training, when Deputy Director Walsh summoned her for immediate deployment to the Olympic National Forest in Washington state. Intelligence analysts had identified potential terrorist activity in the remote wilderness area, and federal authorities required immediate assessment of the threat while maintaining operational security that protected both ongoing investigations and public safety. The assignment represented Sarah's transition from training environment to active federal operations under circumstances that would test every aspect of her developing capabilities. The intelligence briefing revealed that surveillance operations had detected suspicious communications and supply movements consistent with domestic terrorist planning activities, targeting critical infrastructure facilities in the Pacific Northwest region. The communications had referenced specific locations within Olympic National Forest that suggested operational planning and possible training activities occurring in areas that fell under federal wilderness protection jurisdiction. The intersection between national security threats and wilderness management created operational requirements that demanded Sarah's specialized expertise and federal training integration. The operational team assembled for the assignment included Special Agent Marcus Rodriguez from the Federal Bureau of Investigation, Intelligence Analyst Dr. Jennifer Park from the Department of Homeland Security, and Technical Specialist David Chen from the National Security Agency Communications Division. Each team member possessed decades of experience in federal operations, creating professional standards and expectations that would challenge Sarah to demonstrate her readiness for complex federal responsibilities while contributing meaningfully to operational objectives. The mission parameters required the team to conduct covert reconnaissance of suspected terrorist activity areas, while maintaining complete operational security and avoiding detection by potentially dangerous individuals who possessed military training and sophisticated equipment. The operational environment included rugged terrain, unpredictable weather conditions, and potential threats from both environmental hazards and hostile human activity that demanded exceptional professional competence and personal courage. Sarah's preparation for the assignment required integration of her wilderness expertise with federal operational protocols under compressed timelines that tested her ability to perform under pressure while maintaining attention to detail that could determine mission success or failure. The preparation process included equipment selection, communication protocol establishment, coordination with federal agency support systems, and contingency planning for various operational scenarios that might develop during the mission. The transportation to the operational area utilized federal aircraft and ground vehicles that provided Sarah with exposure to federal logistical capabilities while reinforcing the serious nature of the assignment and the professional expectations that governed federal operations. The operational security measures required during transportation included communication restrictions, equipment concealment, and behavioral protocols that protected mission objectives while ensuring personnel safety throughout the deployment process. The initial reconnaissance activities required Sarah to apply her wilderness navigation and environmental assessment skills within federal operational frameworks that demanded precise documentation, systematic analysis, and secure communication of findings to supervisory personnel. These activities tested her ability to maintain professional standards under field conditions while contributing technical expertise that supported broader operational objectives and strategic decision-making processes. The discovery of sophisticated campsites and equipment caches within the suspected operational area confirmed intelligence assessments while revealing the scope and organization of the terrorist activities under investigation. Sarah's analysis of the physical evidence demonstrated advanced preparation and training by individuals who possessed military or law enforcement backgrounds and access to specialized equipment that exceeded normal civilian capabilities. The implications of these discoveries elevated the operational priority while requiring immediate expansion of federal resources and personnel. The technical analysis of communication equipment found within the terrorist camps required coordination with federal technical specialists who could assess the capabilities and potential security implications of the sophisticated systems that had been deployed. Sarah's role in this analysis focused on environmental assessment and operational security considerations that protected federal personnel while ensuring comprehensive evidence collection that would support subsequent legal proceedings and intelligence operations. The coordination with federal support teams required Sarah to demonstrate proficiency in secure communication protocols, while providing terrain analysis and logistical support recommendations that enabled effective deployment of additional federal resources. These coordination activities tested her understanding of federal operational procedures while requiring rapid adaptation to changing circumstances and evolving operational requirements that demanded flexibility and professional competence. The encounter with suspected terrorist personnel during surveillance operations created immediate security threats that required Sarah to apply defensive training while maintaining operational security and evidence collection responsibilities. The situation demanded split-second decision-making under life-threatening circumstances, while coordinating with team members to ensure personnel safety and mission objective achievement. The successful resolution of this encounter demonstrated Sarah's readiness for federal operational responsibilities while providing confidence in her ability to perform under extreme pressure. The evidence collection and documentation activities required Sarah to integrate wilderness crime scene analysis techniques with federal evidence handling procedures that ensured admissibility in court proceedings while maintaining operational security requirements. These activities demanded meticulous attention to detail while working under challenging environmental conditions that tested both technical skills and physical endurance throughout extended operational periods. The intelligence analysis phase of the operation required Sarah to contribute environmental and logistical assessments that supported federal analysts in understanding terrorist operational capabilities and potential target selection criteria. Her wilderness expertise provided unique insights into terrorist movement patterns, supply requirements, and operational limitations that enhanced federal understanding of the threat while supporting strategic planning for interdiction operations. The coordination with local law enforcement agencies required Sarah to serve as liaison between federal operations and local authorities who possessed jurisdictional responsibilities and community knowledge that could support federal objectives. This coordination tested her diplomatic skills while requiring careful balance between operational security requirements and information sharing needs that supported comprehensive law enforcement response to the terrorist threat. The operational security challenges associated with maintaining covert surveillance while collecting comprehensive intelligence required Sarah to demonstrate advanced fieldcraft skills that integrated wilderness survival techniques with federal operational procedures. These challenges tested her ability to remain undetected while gathering critical information that would support subsequent law enforcement and judicial proceedings against the terrorist organization. The physical demands of extended field operations in challenging terrain required Sarah to maintain peak performance levels while managing fatigue, environmental stresses, and operational pressures that could affect decision-making and professional competence. The successful management of these demands demonstrated her physical preparation and mental resilience, while providing confidence in her ability to sustain performance during extended federal operations. The integration of real-time intelligence. Updates with field observations required Sarah to adapt operational plans and tactical approaches based on evolving threat assessments and changing circumstances. This integration tested her analytical capabilities while requiring coordination with federal supervisors and support personnel who provided strategic guidance and resource allocation decisions that affected operational effectiveness and personnel safety. The successful completion of evidence collection and threat assessment activities provided federal authorities with comprehensive intelligence that supported subsequent interdiction operations against the terrorist organization. The quality and completeness of the intelligence gathered during Sarah's first operational assignment exceeded expectations while demonstrating her readiness for expanded federal responsibilities and continued professional development within federal law enforcement operations. The operational debriefing process required Sarah to provide comprehensive analysis of lessons learned and recommendations for improvement that would enhance future federal operations in similar environments. This analysis demonstrated her professional maturity while contributing to institutional knowledge that would benefit subsequent federal operations and personnel training programs designed to address emerging security threats in wilderness environments. The recognition received from federal supervisors and team members validated Sarah's successful transition from wilderness management to federal operations, while identifying areas for continued professional development and specialization. This recognition provided confidence in her career trajectory while highlighting opportunities for advanced training and increased operational responsibilities that would maximize her contributions to federal law enforcement objectives. The personal satisfaction derived from successful completion of her first major federal assignment reinforced Sarah's commitment to expanded federal service while validating her decision to accept the professional challenges and personal sacrifices associated with federal law enforcement responsibilities. The experience provided clear evidence of her ability to contribute meaningfully to national security objectives while maintaining the professional excellence and personal integrity that had characterized her wilderness management career. The successful completion of Sarah's first federal operation established her credibility within the federal law enforcement community, while revealing the complex network of professional relationships that would define her expanded career trajectory. The connections she developed during the Olympic National Forest assignment created both valuable alliances and potential sources of professional conflict that would test her ability to navigate federal agency politics while maintaining focus on operational objectives and national security priorities. Special Agent Marcus Rodriguez emerged as Sarah's most significant professional ally within the Federal Bureau of Investigation, recognizing her exceptional wilderness expertise and rapid adaptation to federal operational protocols. Rodriguez possessed 15 years of federal law enforcement experience, including specialized training in counterterrorism operations and multi-agency coordination that made him an invaluable mentor for Sarah's continued professional development. His support proved instrumental in securing Sarah's acceptance within the traditionally insular federal law enforcement community, while providing guidance on career advancement strategies and operational excellence standards. Rodriguez's partnership with Sarah extended beyond immediate operational requirements to encompass long-term professional development planning that would maximize her contributions to federal law enforcement while advancing her career within the competitive federal advancement structure. His mentorship addressed both technical skill development and professional relationship management that would enable Sarah to navigate complex federal agency hierarchies while maintaining the professional integrity and operational effectiveness that had distinguished her wilderness management career. The collaboration between Sarah and Rodriguez during subsequent operations demonstrated the exceptional effectiveness that could result from integrating wilderness expertise with traditional federal law enforcement capabilities. Their partnership produced operational innovations that enhanced federal capabilities in remote area operations while establishing new protocols for coordination between federal agencies and wilderness management authorities. These innovations attracted attention from federal supervisors and contributed to Sarah's reputation as a valuable specialist within the federal law enforcement community. Intelligence analyst Dr. Jennifer Park represented another crucial alliance that supported Sarah's federal career development, while providing opportunities for professional growth in analytical and strategic planning capabilities. Park possessed advanced degrees in international relations and strategic intelligence analysis, combined with 8 years of experience in federal intelligence operations that provided comprehensive understanding of threat assessment methodologies and strategic planning processes. Her mentorship helped Sarah develop analytical capabilities that complemented her operational skills while expanding her understanding of the broader strategic context within which federal operations occurred. The intellectual partnership between Sarah and Dr. Park created synergistic capabilities that enhanced both operational effectiveness and strategic intelligence analysis. Sarah's wilderness expertise provided unique insights into terrorist operational capabilities and limitations in remote environments, while Park's analytical framework helped translate these insights into strategic intelligence products that supported federal decision-making processes. Their collaboration produced intelligence assessments that significantly enhanced federal understanding of domestic terrorism threats in wilderness environments. Technical specialist David Chen provided Sarah with essential support in understanding the sophisticated communication and surveillance technologies that characterized modern federal operations. Chen possessed advanced technical degrees and specialized training in electronic surveillance, communication intercept operations, and technical intelligence analysis that made him an invaluable resource for Sarah's professional development. His guidance helped Sarah understand the technical dimensions of federal operations while developing capabilities that enhanced her operational effectiveness and career advancement potential. The technical training provided by Chen enabled Sarah to contribute meaningfully to sophisticated federal operations that required integration of human intelligence gathering with technical surveillance capabilities. This training expanded Sarah's professional capabilities while establishing her as a versatile federal agent capable of supporting diverse operational requirements. The technical competencies she developed under Chen's guidance distinguished her from other federal agents while providing unique value to federal operations in remote environments. The development of these professional alliances within the federal law enforcement community provided Sarah with essential support systems that facilitated her continued professional growth while protecting her from potential conflicts and challenges that could derail her federal career advancement. These relationships created professional networks that would provide opportunities for advanced assignments, specialized training, and career advancement that would maximize her contributions to federal law enforcement objectives. However, Sarah's rapid advancement and specialized role also created potential sources of professional conflict within the federal law enforcement community. Senior Agent Patricia Hawkins from the Department of Homeland Security represented the most significant source of professional opposition that Sarah encountered during her federal career development. Hawkins possessed 22 years of federal law enforcement experience and had been passed over for promotion opportunities that were subsequently offered to newer agents with specialized expertise, creating resentment towards Sarah's rapid advancement and specialized role. Hawkins's opposition to Sarah's expanded responsibilities manifested through bureaucratic challenges, resource allocation disputes, and procedural objections that tested Sarah's professional resilience while requiring diplomatic skills to manage ongoing working relationships. These challenges provided valuable learning opportunities about federal agency politics, while requiring Sarah to develop conflict resolution capabilities that would serve her throughout her federal career. The successful navigation of these conflicts demonstrated Sarah's professional maturity while establishing her credibility as the effective federal agent, capable of managing complex interpersonal dynamics. The resolution of conflicts with Hawkins required Sarah to demonstrate exceptional professional competence while maintaining respectful relationships that preserved operational effectiveness and institutional cohesion. This process required Sarah to develop advanced diplomatic skills while seeking common ground that could transform professional opposition into collaborative relationships that supported federal objectives. The successful transformation of this relationship provided Sarah with valuable insights into federal agency dynamics while establishing her reputation as a professional capable of managing complex interpersonal challenges. Supervisory Special Agent Thomas Bradley represented another potential source of professional conflict due to his skepticism regarding the integration of wilderness management expertise with traditional federal law enforcement operations. Bradley possessed extensive experience in federal law enforcement but limited exposure to wilderness operations, creating philosophical differences regarding operational approaches and resource allocation priorities that required careful navigation to maintain productive working relationships. The professional tension between Sarah and Bradley created opportunities for Sarah to demonstrate the practical value of wilderness expertise within federal operations, while developing advocacy skills that would serve her throughout her federal career. These interactions required Sarah to articulate the strategic value of her specialized capabilities while demonstrating measurable contributions to federal operational objectives. The successful resolution of these tensions established Sarah's credibility while creating institutional support for continued integration of wilderness expertise within federal operations. The management of professional relationships within the federal law enforcement community required Sarah to develop sophisticated understanding of institutional cultures, career advancement pathways, and professional networking strategies that would support her long-term career objectives while maintaining operational effectiveness. These relationship management skills proved essential for navigating the complex federal bureaucracy while building coalitions that supported her professional advancement and operational contributions. The development of external professional relationships with state and local law enforcement agencies provided Sarah with additional sources of professional support while expanding her operational capabilities and career advancement opportunities. These relationships created valuable networks that enhanced federal operational effectiveness while providing Sarah with alternative career pathways that could complement her federal service responsibilities. The collaboration with state wildlife management agencies established Sarah as a liaison between federal operations and state environmental protection activities, creating opportunities for professional development while contributing to improved coordination between federal and state authorities. These relationships provided valuable experience in intergovernmental cooperation while establishing Sarah's reputation as an effective coordinator capable of managing complex, multi-jurisdictional operations. The professional relationships developed with academic institutions and research organizations provided Sarah with opportunities for continued education and professional development while establishing valuable networks that could support her career advancement and operational effectiveness. These relationships created access to cutting-edge research and analytical capabilities that enhanced Sarah's professional competence while contributing to federal operational innovation and effectiveness. The ongoing management of professional relationships required Sarah to balance competing priorities and conflicting interests while maintaining focus on operational objectives and national security priorities. This balancing act tested her diplomatic skills while providing valuable experience in stakeholder management and coalition building that would serve her throughout her federal career. The evolution of professional relationships reflected Sarah's growing reputation and expanding influence within the federal law enforcement community, while creating new opportunities for career advancement and operational leadership. These relationships represented valuable career assets that would support her continued professional development while enabling her to contribute meaningfully to federal law enforcement objectives and national security priorities. The revelation that fundamentally transformed Sarah's understanding of her federal role emerged during a classified briefing session conducted 6 weeks after her successful Olympic National Forest operation. Deputy Director Walsh convened the session to address critical developments in Emma's case that required immediate strategic reassessment and operational adjustments. The information presented during this briefing would challenge every assumption Sarah had developed regarding the nature of her federal responsibilities and the broader implications of the wilderness security threats she had been addressing. The briefing revealed that the missing federal agent who had protected Emma during her wilderness ordeal was Special Agent Michael Torres, a 15-year veteran of an elite federal counterintelligence unit specializing in domestic terrorism prevention. Torres had been conducting deep cover surveillance of a sophisticated network of domestic terrorist organizations that had been planning coordinated attacks against critical infrastructure facilities throughout the western United States. His encounter with Emma had occurred during the most sensitive phase of a multi-year investigation that involved federal agencies at the highest levels of national security operations. The intelligence gathered from Torres's surveillance activities had identified a domestic terrorism network with capabilities and resources that exceeded previous threat assessments and included individuals with military training, advanced technical expertise, and access to sophisticated weapons and communication systems. The network had established operational bases in remote wilderness areas across multiple states, utilizing the challenging terrain and limited federal presence to conduct training activities and operational planning that posed significant threats to national security and public safety. Torres's disappearance following his separation from Emma had created critical intelligence gaps that compromised ongoing federal operations while potentially exposing other federal agents and informants who had been working to infiltrate the terrorist network. The implications of this operational compromise extended beyond immediate security concerns to encompass broader questions regarding federal counterintelligence capabilities and the effectiveness of existing protocols for protecting undercover operations in wilderness environments. The briefing revealed that Sarah's specialized role as wilderness security liaison had been created specifically to address the operational challenges that had been identified through Torres's investigation and subsequent disappearance. Her integration of wilderness expertise with federal law enforcement capabilities represented a critical component of expanded federal efforts to address domestic terrorism threats in remote environments that had previously received insufficient attention from federal security operations. The scope of the domestic terrorism network under investigation included cells operating in wilderness areas throughout Montana, Idaho, Washington, Oregon, and Northern California, with coordination. Activities that suggested sophisticated planning and resource allocation capabilities. The network had established supply caches, communication systems, and training facilities that utilized wilderness areas as operational bases while avoiding detection by traditional federal surveillance and interdiction capabilities. Sarah's previous operational assignments had unknowingly contributed to a comprehensive federal assessment of terrorist capabilities and operational patterns that would guide expanded federal counterterrorism efforts throughout the western United States. Her wilderness expertise and federal training had provided unique insights into terrorist operational limitations and vulnerabilities that could be exploited through coordinated federal operations designed to disrupt their activities and prevent planned attacks. The revelation of this broader context transformed Sarah's understanding of her professional responsibilities from specialized federal law enforcement support to critical participation in national security operations that could determine the effectiveness of federal efforts to prevent domestic terrorism attacks. The expansion of her role required immediate integration into the highest levels of federal counterterrorism planning while maintaining operational security that protected ongoing investigations and personnel safety. The briefing identified specific operational requirements that would define Sarah's expanded responsibilities within the federal counterterrorism effort. These requirements included comprehensive assessment of terrorist operational capabilities in wilderness environments, development of interdiction strategies that could disrupt terrorist activities without compromising ongoing investigations, and coordination with multiple federal agencies to ensure effective resource allocation and operational coordination throughout the expanded federal response. The intelligence assessment revealed that the terrorist network possessed sophisticated understanding of federal law enforcement capabilities and had adapted their operational approaches to exploit perceived weaknesses in federal wilderness security operations. Their utilization of remote wilderness areas reflected strategic planning that recognized the limited federal presence in these environments while capitalizing on the operational challenges that terrain and weather conditions presented to traditional federal law enforcement operations. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.